Coverage continuing now at 3 with 19 data journalist Jeff Slauson. Again, city officials saying air quality not a concern in one regard, asking perhaps maybe wear a mask if you're concerned in another regard. But we've learned even more chemicals than we knew yesterday are actually inside that building.
Yeah, and here's where the confusion comes for us as journalists, as reporters in the news here, right? They say that it is safe, that everything is okay. Even the air quality right now is at moderate. That's not necessarily as bad. To put this into context for you, when we were dealing with those severe Canadian wildfires last summer, we were hovering in the orange and red range. So the yellow range is really not that bad. However, you're going to be hearing from officials in just a minute here from that same press conference that Brittany was in attendance to, and they're suggesting that people wear masks. So somewhere there is a disconnect. Now, as Nicole mentioned there, we had known 3 of these chemicals that were in those fires potentially: propane, xylene, and methanol. Well, now we know that there were 2 additional ones: ethanol and ether. The thing is, we should have known this yesterday. Every company in Akron is required to basically say what potentially dangerous chemicals they have within the building. So we're not quite sure where these 2 other chemicals are coming from. I'm going to run through really quickly here some of the issues that we see with these chemicals. Propane is extremely flammable, can cause dizziness or asphyxiation and burns, injuries, frostbite, issues that can happen as a result of it. When it comes to xylene, highly flammable, toxic effects if inhaled, burns the skin and burns the eyes. Methanol, and these are all things that we knew the past couple of days, or at least the last day, highly flammable, toxic, and maybe fatal if inhaled. When it comes to the 2 that we are just learning about now, highly flammable, have environmental issues, and the runoff from these can be explosive. That is why there is still a concern with all of these. Now, this mostly considers with ethanol. When it comes to ether, there's actually other qualifiers for it. There's different subsections of ether. We don't know exactly what that is. We have reached out to Akron for some confirming information. But now with the introduction of these 2 new chemicals, that's potentially the reason why Akron is now saying if you're within that mile range, might be a good idea to wear a mask if you're going outside.
It is definitely still smoky today, and I'd encourage folks to limit your exposure to the smoke as much as possible, especially those with underlying conditions. Wearing a mask can assist in filtering the air, and we encourage you to wear one if you're outside in the immediate area.
The Ohio EPA is still testing the air on that. We are obviously going to be keeping an eye on the air quality. Another thing to this, some of those particles made their way toward the Cleveland area, so the potential issues, if there are any in Akron, have the chance to be in the air up here. That is something we, of course, are going to continue to monitor and keep our eye on as we speak to environmental experts to get a little bit more clarity on this situation.
All right, Jeff.